Hello theatre fans, and welcome back to a brand new video here on my channel. If you couldn't guess by my t-shirt that I'm wearing, today I will be giving you guys my review of Theatre Camp, which I had the privilege of being the UK premiere of, seeing as it comes out in a couple of days time, and I think it is the perfect must-watch for any theatre fan. Now, as someone who is both a theatre fan and grew up going to summer camp in America, I feel like I am a uniquely placed British influencer to tell you all about the ups and downs of this movie. So without further ado, let's get into this. Now, before we get any further into this video, I should warn you that this video isn't exactly going to be spoiler free. So if you don't want the movie spoiled before you get the chance to watch it, I advise saving this video for later, going and watch the movie when it comes out on the 25th of August and circling back around to see what I have to say to see if you guys agree with me. So that is your slightly muddled spoiler warning out of the way. So let's get into this and start by discussing what Theatre Camp is about. It is about an American summer camp that is focused on theatre. And this movie is a mockumentary style film in which we get to go and follow the camp counsellors and the campers for a summer as they work towards putting on their big end of summer show. But things for camp are a little different this year, as their beloved camp founder unfortunately is in a coma. So the entire camp, including its plucky camp counsellors, its amazing cast of talented kids, as well as the owner's plucky wannabe influencer's son, have to work together to keep the camp running whilst their founder is away. Naturally, theatrical chaos ensues, leaving us to watch as this mockumentary unfolds, detailing the chaos and fun that summer camp, particularly theatrical summer camp, holds in store for everybody. With that slightly hectic synopsis out the way, let us start with what I really enjoyed about this film, because the what I loves about this film greatly outweigh what I didn't like about this film. Now, as I mentioned at the start of this video, I was fortunate enough to attend summer camp growing up as a kid. I went 3 years and I had an amazing time. I didn't go specifically to theatre camp, but I did go to sleepaway camp. So I feel like I have some experiences that a lot of other British people that may be covering this don't have. So when it comes to how I feel about the movie, I'm looking at not only the aspects of whether it is an enjoyable from a theatre standpoint, but enjoyable as a movie about summer camp. And can I just say, I thought it was fantastic. The camp felt so real and so lived in, and not just created for this movie specifically. I also really like the fact that the camp in the movie is called Adiron de Acts as in I'm doing acting, because that is a play on the Adirondacks, which is a mountain range, I believe, as well as a famous type of chair, some of which I actually have out in my garden, featured here. So I definitely enjoyed that. I loved the camp name. I thought that was brilliant. Another thing I really liked is that there is this joke where Troy is up on the stage in the dining hall trying to get the campers to be quiet, and he's like, yo guys, hey, and no one is listening to him. And then Ben Platt's character Amos gets up on stage and sings a song as a little bit of a call and repeat with the campers, and naturally the campers fall silent. Now, not only is this a hilarious theatre joke, because I feel like us theatre kids, you mentioned like one line from a song, like someone will go September 1st, and in my head I'm like 1989, Dear Diary. So like that was incredibly funny from the theatre side of things, like I was saying, but you also have the element of at summer camp and in classrooms as well, you often have teachers and camp counsellors creating these little call and responses to get the kids to be quiet in a more engaging way than like, yo, just be quiet. Like at my camp, it used to be, we didn't sing, we did have singing campfires, but we didn't sing specifically to get the crowd to be quiet. It used to be, and a hush fell over the crowd, and then the entire group of campers would just go, a hush, and then everyone would fall silent. So I appreciated that because it felt not only very funny and relevant to the fact this was a movie about a theatre camp, because they used a theatre song, I can't remember what it was now, but they used a theatre song, but it just felt very relevant and realistic to what actually happens at a summer camp. But that is my praise of the setting aside, because I do think that was a big part, sorry, I've got my laptop here with all my notes. I do think that was a big part of what made this movie feel so good and grounded and realistic, and it helps sell the mockumentary style of it as well, is just how real and lived in and permanent this camp actually felt. The next thing I really liked about this was that when it comes to putting on the end of summer show, they go with an original show that is written by Ben Platt's character Amos and Molly Gordon's character Rebecca Diane, who have been attending camp since they were kids and are now working there as adults because their theatre careers are failing. They write this original musical called Joan Still, which is an homage to the camp's founder, who, as I mentioned earlier, isn't present throughout the movie because she is in hospital in a coma. And I love the fact that not only are the songs in this original musical really quite catchy, I think it was definitely interesting and an enjoyable choice for them to do an original musical instead of falling back on what they thought or knew might sell by including a real musical. They could have quite easily done Cats or Mamma Mia or School of Rock, something that is well known and actually exists. And so I think it was a brave but definitely well worth it choice to go with this original musical because it made it again feel a bit more believable in terms of like the chaos that ensues with regards to like, have you finished the finale number? No, it's not written, but we need to stage it and all of this. It definitely made for some really interesting plot points, and that I think was really enjoyable. But speaking of this original musical, can I just say the final song is so perfect, okay? Have I watched the entirety of Joan Still the musical? No. But this finale song, the finale song of Joan Still, this in-universe musical, was so touching. Just the lyrics that were involved and the passion of the kids performing it in the movie, you could just tell that it was a song that really meant a lot to them. And I think I was tearing up, honestly. And in hearing the lyrics, there was a lot of stuff that really struck me in terms of just how important the theatre is for a lot of kids in terms of giving them a space that they can express themselves and truly voice who they feel they are inside, as well as giving them confidence. For me, it truly embodied what theatre means to a lot of people, in it being that safe space and it building a community where people might not otherwise have one. And so props to the people that wrote that song, because it takes a lot to get me to tear up. And I thought it was just such a sweet moment to have in what is otherwise quite a comedic movie. And like I said, yeah, it just to me embodies what theatre is all about and why it is important and why it should be as accessible to as many kids as possible. Another thing that was really enjoyable about this movie was its characters. My particular favourite was Ayo Adibri's character. You might know her from The Bear. That's certainly where I knew her from going into this movie, but her character was brilliant. Basically, she'd been hired as a camp counsellor at a theatre camp with no experience, so a lot of the scenes she was in, even though they weren't long or particularly impactful on the movie, were just so funny. They had me giggling. Her comedic timing and the way she started out the character, I just thought were brilliant. But the interactions between all of the characters were fantastic, even though all of the characters were of course slight exaggerations of different types of theatre people. None of them felt overly cartoony or caricaturized, if that's even a word. But it made them feel real whilst at the same time still giving them a slightly comedic styling, which I appreciated. You could see, the washed up dancer who hasn't amounted to anything in years, the friends that are desperate of being on Broadway but haven't quite made it yet, things like that. The wannabe influencer of Troy, I think he was a really funny character, particularly given what I do. There was a lot of stuff with him walking around with a camera and I'm like, gee, is this what I look like when I'm vlogging? So there was definitely a lot of relatable characters. And you could tell through the acting that it was clearly a project that everyone was really passionate about as well. Building off this with the characters, there were a lot of sort of theatrical tropes. I say tropes, but sort of things that are, things that all theatre people are kind of aware of, that they use to sort of build up some of the tension in the movie and a little bit of the B plot. So you have Amos and Rebecca Diane. Like I said earlier, they are two friends that met at camp and they both have these big dreams of being performers, but they are stuck performing and running and helping at this camp because they haven't been able to branch out and make it to Juilliard or onto a Broadway stage. And when Rebecca Diane starts to get these opportunities that Amos doesn't, it causes tension. And as someone who has had a lot of friends go through the whole drama school and they're now starting to go for jobs, this tension to me is so real, and so believable in the way it was portrayed, in that you want to be proud for your friend, but also you are so insanely jealous that jealousy just kind of blinds you. I thought that was a really interesting trope to kind of include as the B plot, and it worked remarkably well in terms of building tension in what is most of the time a really upbeat and funny movie. And then finally, I did mention earlier that this is a mockumentary style film, and I really enjoyed that. I do feel like mockumentary style filming does allow for more moments of comedy and realism with the characters, like subtle little like glances at the camera, like, oh my god, did they really just say that, and little things like that. So I think this was definitely the right kind of style to have for this movie, and it also allowed us to follow different characters at different points and it not feel like it was jumping all over the place too much. And the on-screen text that was sort of giving context and explaining things was really funny as well, so I did really appreciate that, and it kind of just helped build this world and build the realism and make it believable that you were just watching a documentary about this struggling theatre camp. So hopefully that wasn't too complicated. I feel like I have just rambled, and I know I talk really quickly, but there you have it. Once you have watched this movie, make sure that you come back here and leave a comment as to what your favourite part of the movie is, because I know what my favourite part was, might not be your favourite part, and I'm dying to hear what you guys think of this movie when you do get the chance to go and see it. But I say we get into what I didn't quite like. Now, I don't want this to be all dreary and negative and all of that, because what I didn't like about this movie is literally one thing. Like, one thing, and that is Noah Galvin's character, the stage manager. Noah Galvin plays Glenn Winthrop, who is the stage manager at the Adirondacks theatre camp. And I loved at first that there was the inclusion of a stage manager character, and there was a lot of little scenes where they're trying to set up for shows and things, and he's literally being summoned every second. He's midway through a task and someone's on the radio being like, we need this, you need to do this, you need to do that. And as someone who has stage managed, this is very real for me, particularly if you don't have a fully composed backstage team. If it's a smaller show, you might be doing everything yourself. So to see him being pulled in like 100 different directions because everyone needed him and needed him now, that I really appreciated that. I thought that was so funny and so relatable as someone who has been in that position. But my love for the fact they included a stage manager character wore thin when I realised they were setting him up to have this secret desire to be this big performer on stage. He did come in and save the show when one of the leads had to step out last minute, and so for the stage managers to save the show I did appreciate, but it always irritates me slightly, that kind of trope. I feel like I've said trope a lot in this video, but the trope of a stage manager who's only stage managing because they're too nervous or not confident enough to put themselves out there and get up on stage, because that's just objectively not true. I love stage managing and have no desire to get up and be on stage singing and dancing. Not that I have the voice for that, but I think, especially in the world we are in, where there is, certainly in the UK, a shortage of people going into technical theatre with roles such as stage managing, lighting and sound, it is a slightly frustrating thing to see portrayed in a movie like this, because to me it diminishes the value of being a stage manager slightly. I know that's not what they were going for when the movie was written, and it certainly isn't the message they're definitely trying to get across. I think it's more that there is a performer within all of us, and everyone deserves a shot at the limelight. It just irritated me slightly, because I'm like, yeah, but that's not, like, stage managers don't work stage management jobs because they're not getting cast. They work stage management jobs because they're passionate about stage management. So that was like my biggest irk with the movie. And then the other thing I have is less of a complaint about the movie. It's just the fact that summer camp is an inherently American thing. It is becoming more of a thing here in the UK, but this idea of sending your kids away for 3 weeks, sometimes longer, to stay at a sleepaway camp where they do all of these crazy activities is very American. We don't see it often here in the UK. We do have things like PGL, but they're not the same. And so I do just wonder how the summer camp setting of it all will impact how British audiences react to it. I think the fact it's set at a summer camp is, like, less important than everything else in the movie. I just think it does set a tone that maybe British audiences may not be as used to. Like I said, Theatre Camp comes out to cinemas for you lovely lot on the 25th of August, and if you are anything like me and you love theatre, I mean, you're watching these YouTube videos, you must love it to some extent, right? But if you're anything like me, this is definitely a movie to go and watch. I said when I left the premiere that it was one of my new favourite movies, which for me to say something like that requires quite a lot, so I think it's high praise indeed. Whether you guys think the same remains to be seen, but I do think it is definitely worth a watch, particularly if you are after something really funny, as this movie had my cheeks hurting with how much I was giggling along. But that is all I have to say on the matter for now. So if you did enjoy this video, make sure to leave a like below, and like I said earlier, if you do end up going to see Theatre Camp, come back here and let me know what your favourite things about the movie were in the comments below once you have seen it. And as always, if you want more theatrical content here on YouTube, make sure you are subscribed for more theatre videos. Without further ado guys, I'll see you in the next one. Bye!